welcome back to the All About PA podcast, where we talk about anything and everything Pennsylvania. I'm Chandler.
And I'm Rainice, and this is All About PA. Welcome back, everybody. We're in session. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, our partner, awesome organization in Pennsylvania, and she is here to talk about what incredible work they are doing. Please welcome Demo, Communications Director from 1PA.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So, Demo, we want to talk a little bit more about, what you're doing, what's 1PA up to. The general elections are literally around the corner. And we just want to know a little bit more about what your organization is doing in regards to voter education. Tell us all and everything you do.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name is Diamante, or Demo for short. I use she, they pronouns. I'm the Communications Director of 1PA, as our brilliant co-host, Rainice, has put it. I help with not only amplifying the messaging of our organization, where we center our base building with Black working class communities across Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and other parts of Pennsylvania, including Delco, Chester County, Dauphin County, and so on and so forth. But the voter education work that we do really centers on the issues that we care about when it comes to housing justice, going after your greedy landlord or the corporate landlord that is being unjust and unfair with not having enough protections in place for low-income homeowners or renters who are dealing with mold, infestation, so on and so forth. Not to mention when it comes to climate justice and seeing the powers that be and the connection when it comes to, what is impacting our working class communities. And we have seen a lot of this, not only from housing and climate, but the cost of living and what really centers our needs and how we're trying to address that moving forward.
That's a lot of the things that a lot of Pennsylvanians deeply care about. Emphasis on the greedy landlords and the mold infestations. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, the voter education part is so huge, especially as we come up on an election where still a lot of people, don't know that we actually have an election this year, that our courts are on the ballot, that our local borough councils, mayors, school boards, judges, a lot of important stuff that people just aren't aware of, that Pennsylvania still has elections in the off years. So talking to voters and talking to people with 1PA, what are some of the things that voters have expressed concern about?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The main thing has been the cost of living. The main thing has been the rent is too damn high, and speaking into, those issues and figuring out, who are the politicians where vice versa, we could see billionaires in each other's pockets. And our main motto is follow the money, confront the power, make the change. And part of the work that we do in our communities is not only thinking about specific issues, but also aligning our interests and figuring out ways that we can organize in our chapters and neighborhoods. And specifically getting back to voter education. Not a lot of people know that Pennsylvania, every 6 months, there is an election. And I remember one conversation in the past, Rainice, you put it so brilliantly, when it comes to people don't realize what they got until it's gone. And we could access resources right now in order to see, are you registered to vote? Are you able to stop by at a mail drop-off location? Are you able to access an organization like 1PA, or, figure out other voting education tools that are just in your back pocket? And, we are able to provide that not only on the front lines, but engage in a really important conversation that sometimes isn't covered in mainstream media. We're seeing a lot of national conversations right now with what's happening in this administration, but also what can be done to make a change, as we're seeing, a lot of grief, a lot of strife, just a lot of disparities that we're seeing, especially in the communities that we care about the most.
Oh my gosh. I clap so loud for that. I think I might blow my mic, because it is so important that people understand, what's really at stake. And that's the thing, we're so focused on the national part, but on our daily basis, like you mentioned, we have an election on November 4th, but every year is an election year, and it's just as important as the presidential election. And that's kind of what we want to do to reach people and voters, like, why, my question would be like, why is this election so important for voters to participate in? How do we bring that to people so that they can identify with,
Yeah. I would definitely just frame it as every election year we hear it's the most important election of our lifetime. And it is. And,
it really is.
Not trying to get into a sort of like fear mongering sense, but I think there is an abundance narrative that can be placed. And a lot of the work that I do also, I like to call myself a language scientist and thinking about like the specific words that like people really latch onto. And, within our movement ecosystem too, we get to see that and analyze it and critique it for what it is. But also going back to like our neighborhood chapter meetings, for instance, a lot of people are, still getting in touch with those specific like framings and understandings, but more importantly, the issues that they themselves want to continue to voice and continue to advocate behind. And we're able to not only be that soundboard, but again, be like that necessary, amplification megaphone, if you will, to voice that. And I think for this election in particular, we get to see headlines when it comes to, this judge has blocked this thing that can, infringe on a woman's right to choose, or education rights when it comes to public school funding, or when it comes to housing justice, and so many things that we don't really get to see on a daily basis, right? That are just happening because we have the protections in place that are necessary to like have that change be done in our communities without having to wake up every day and, not doom scroll maybe a little less than we do before because we have that security and we have that necessary infrastructure.
And those are things that are so important. Like, honestly, our day to day is on the ballot this November.
Yeah, it really is. And like, it pains me a little bit that like these elections in the odd years get so ignored or overlooked. I got my start getting involved in local politics, and like I myself have run for my town borough council before, and so like that experience was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, just getting to talk to people in my community, like getting to learn what the issues are. And it's all, everything at the local level is like kitchen table issues, like the people in charge of your town, city, or county are like, they're the ones who can help build and create affordable housing. Like they're the ones who can put these local policies into place to make your community a better, a stronger, safer place to live, a more affordable place to live. We place a lot of like emphasis on like, oh, Trump says he's going to lower inflation, but like, we can do things to address the cost of living crisis in our own backyard. And that's what these local elections do. Like our borough council, especially our judges, the PA Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled for tenants' rights, worker rights, protecting us from, corporate overreach, from billionaire influence, and people who just, they want to scam ordinary working people to make a quick buck. And so that's why it's like, these elections are so important. It's like the cost of living, that's on the ballot too. And so it's like, it's just obviously so important. So like, my question is like, what are some of the ways in which 1PA is reaching voters, who don't know about these elections, who don't know that they can really make a difference in their community this November?
We are just one of the many organizations that has been, again, on the front lines, being able to engage with voters, but then asking them, what do they care the most about their community that hopefully isn't taken away without their lack of participation? Because I think once you're able to connect, not only the individual cause to the greater common cause and the common good, then people are able to realize, yeah, this is bigger than myself. And we know that the stakes are really high right now, and they continue to get higher and higher once you see this very uncomfortable disparity, especially amongst Black and brown, poor and working class folks. And specifically in cities like Philadelphia, we now are like the second poorest, largest city. We just got beat out by Houston, but that's not a great statistic to have.
Yeah.
And we know that like the federal minimum wage is $7.25. We know that families are still struggling paycheck to paycheck, especially post 2024, when we saw 60% of Americans are still working under conditions that they themselves cannot survive under. And so the work that we're able to do encompasses a lot of those conversations, but then also matches it to, hey, we know that when we come together, we can make a difference. Here's how we sign up for a chapter meeting. Here's how we sign up for an upcoming event where we talk about corporate overreach and corporate billionaires that are infringing upon our democracy, and how we defend our human rights, you know, as people, especially working class communities that make up a majority of the country. Immigrants make up this country. Black and brown, like poor working class folks make up this country, and really emphasizing that we can't do this alone. So we start that over the summer, but we also do a lot of campaign work throughout the year. So it's not just, you know, elections, which are really important, but we're able to establish that baseline when it comes to, we know that our base are the superheroes, and we know that we're able to, again, express ways that people can not only feel empowered, but they themselves can like reach out for that megaphone and really take a stand. And people get really excited. We are an intergenerational organization, and I find a lot of pride when I'm able to talk to a lot of folks in our North Uptown chapters, as well as our Pittsburgh chapters. And sometimes it's their first time getting involved in like a major campaign, and they're really excited. They're really nervous, but it's that, you know, ferocity that's like built in. And it's like, oh, you're doing something that is like so, it's a little crazy, but it's also so exciting. And I'm able to be that like strategic cheerleader in the background and say like, hey, you got this. I'm right here. But also you're representing your community in such a meaningful way.
Oh my gosh. That's just amazing.
Just like touching on what you said about like, you know, especially cost of living and housing and everything. I mean, like I just moved back from Pittsburgh. And so now I live in a pretty rural area. And I was just on a whim the other day looking at like apartments around here and whatnot, and they're just as expensive as the city, you know, like this isn't just like a city issue. Like affordable housing really does affect all of us, you know, all of these issues always affect all of us. And it's like, you know, some of these rents, like it blows my mind how Republicans expect us to afford this rent on $7.25 potentially, you know? I mean, it's like you have Republicans nationwide who refuse to raise the federal minimum wage. And then you have Republicans in Harrisburg who also refuse to raise the minimum wage, when like even states like West Virginia have done it. And it's like, it's ridiculous. And it's like, I've seen like localities even pass their own minimum wage, you know, because it's just like, that's just one way in which local leaders can address the affordability crisis. But yeah, I mean, these issues really aren't as rural, urban as I feel like many people tend to think. They really do affect all of us. Like
everywhere, busier cities, even the small cities that you thought were small, it's still difficult. It's a large influx of folks that are moving just to relocate, just to find affordability. And then it's just completely all around unfair that there's been several times where minimum wage legislation has been passed and then it just goes nowhere. It's extremely selfish. They should be ashamed, because what are you doing? You're not doing your actual job. PA is the only state around, like we are surrounded by states that have already passed 5 different types of legislation on minimum wage increase. They already have increased it like 3 times, and they will do it again later this year too. It's embarrassing. It's putting people in the corner to just get completely like overwhelming stressed, having to have multiple jobs or seeking assistance like anywhere they can, because that's another thing too. It's such like inconsiderate when you have a job, but then you can't, you're not qualified because you're earning too much. And it's like, this is not enough. It's not enough. And what is the earning too much, right? What's that cap? That cap is literally the poverty, what you get. It's just not, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's extremely selfish. But yeah, I think that the work that 1PA is doing is phenomenal, reaching voters, just talking to people, educating them, meeting them where they are. having those conversations with people. Like Chandler said, I started canvassing, and those were the best conversations I've had when it comes to what people are actually feeling on the ground. And I feel like, that type of work is really what keeps us together, bonded, in knowing what people are actually saying that they need, so that, our state officials listen, and they're confident that they will find a way to work for the people and help them where they can. Which leads me, I know that you've done a lot of community engagement on social media. So talk to me a little bit more about the Demos deep dives. When are they coming back? We want to see the people on the ground.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We have some things that are in the works. My favorite part about that specific segment, and for those that don't know and are new to our socials, the segment is an alliteration that I was able to come up with the brilliant team at Rolling Lemon. Shout out to Rolling Lemon. And specifically figuring out ways that we talk about our movement ecosystem and the work that we're able to contribute, not just us as an organization, but who makes up the organization specifically. And so for me, I get to really pass on the mic to our members, and we're really trying to focus on who are the member storytellers that are able to make a change directly in their communities. And specifically, we have been robustly working on 2 housing campaigns right now. One features the work that we're doing in our Philadelphia chapter that has to focus on introducing legislation that we talked about before, but addressing mold and infestation and protections for renters and low-income homeowners, and also holding the current mayoral administration accountable when it comes to funding that our communities desperately need. Aside from that, in Pittsburgh, we are also going after the greedy landlords that are also evading all of those things. And we have members, unfortunately, that are going through dire conditions right now. And so with the Demos deep dives, we're able to talk about these pieces of legislation that we are trying to introduce. We are also talking about housing struggles. We're talking about the political wins that we need. And we're doing it in a way where it takes the stuffiness out of a brief, if you will, and we're able to present it in a cool reel/TikTok format, and really allow the viewer and the members to see themselves in the work. So that being said, we have some things that are cooking right now, some things that are marinating, and a lot of the work that I'm also able to figure out is the editing process alongside, which is a huge learning curve for me. And it reminds me of all of the talent that comes, not only in front of the camera, but also behind the camera. And we're able to see that in real time, from prepping our speakers to making sure they're really excited, to making sure that they know that this is going towards not only the legacy of the organization, but also this is the legacy that they get to leave behind, which is really impactful and really insightful.
I love that. I love those deep dives.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they're really exciting. And it's been a really cool thing to see so much excitement from, our members and our partners like y'all. And again, the eagerness to be when's the next episode? So we do have some things coming out in the following weeks. We did do some work around SCOPA. We have also been working with content creators across the state to talk about the important races and the fact that the judges that we're currently endorsing believe in the fact that Black people should be voting. And that itself should not be a radical issue. And yet here we are. But also a women's right to choose, anyone's right to choose, frankly, for that matter, and continuing to make sure that there is no more corporate overreach in our elections, as well as our democracy that we're trying to defend.
Active.
Yeah, 100%. And I really applaud your guys' campaigns in Philly and Pittsburgh. And I feel like people also don't realize that campaigns aren't necessarily for candidates always. There are a lot of organizations like One PA, or PA Stands Up, who do campaigns focused on issues where you can also still go door to door, talking to people, hearing their stories, letting them know campaigns are not just for candidates, they can and do change a lot of local stuff. So for anyone who's looking to get more involved with One PA and, all those great campaigns, where exactly can they find more resources?
I love that you asked that question. We do have a website, 1pa.org. We also have our social media handles. We are on Blue Sky. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Our Instagram handle is at 1Pennsylvania. And then we also do our C3 voter education work at 1PA, 4, like the number 4, all. And you could also find that on socials and online as well.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much, Demo, for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to learn all of the amazing things that 1PA is doing, that you're doing. I love it. I love it. For all of you listening or watching our podcast, we definitely advise you to check out 1PA if you want to get involved, if you want to, reach out to your community, if you want to be part of the change, if you want to feel like, your heart is in this and you want to keep doing the good work and fighting the good fight, please reach out to this amazing organization. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Demo.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And that's all, PA. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Chandler.
And I'm Rainice, and this is All About PA Podcast.
We'll be back soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky at All About PA to keep up with all things Pennsylvania and when we drop our next episode. Special thanks to our editors at Rolling Lemon Creative. See you guys next time.
Bye.